Hello, babies.
Let me shift to our next topic here. Sticking with the NBA and basketball, I wanted to talk to you about this Jason Tatum interview. Did you listen to the JJ Redick interview?
Yeah, I listened to parts of it, not the whole
You did?
thing. Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Well, they've been playing it all in 98.5 the whole week, so
yeah. Okay, so you just piggybacked on everything
Cliff
else.
Notes.
Yeah,
Cliff
bottom of the totem pole of dumb. Here it
Just I
comes.
can be honest about it.
Look, you know I've been hard on Jason Tatum. You know I've called him a budding superstar. You know I've said that he has a lot to add to his game for a number of years here. You also know I started this season. We have the bet. We have the Jizz Cookie bet that I thought that Jason Tatum was ready to take the next step and be the guy to have enough talent alone just to have his team in the top 4 of his conference in the NBA, because that's just kind of how it works. It didn't start out like that this season, but it's starting to look like that now on the court. And this interview kind of shows me that it's starting to sound like that off the court. So I'll give you a couple quotes. I'll give you I have 3 quotes. We'll do one. I'll get your take, and then we'll do the other ones. All right. Here's Tatum's first quote here. It says, "This, especially the beginning of this season," he's talking about this season, the 2021 season, "has been the toughest up and down. We would go games above 500, go down 2 games. I remember my first year, we won 18 games in a row. My second year, we were supposed to have the most talent in the team. My third year, we went back to the conference finals. I was spoiled. I thought this was how it was supposed to be every year. I think a little bit last year, but especially this year, it was kind of the first time I was like, all right, this is the other side of the NBA. It was like you struggle for a little bit, try to figure it out, and then it's not always happy days coming into practice. Everybody's on edge and a little bit frustrated." Isn't that what we wanted to hear from Jason Tatum for 3 years?
Yes, it is. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. I mean, he came in at a time where he went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Everything was going in the right direction. He had the talent around him. And now when it was time for the Jays to take over, it wasn't all cupcakes and rainbows. It was actually hard. And it's nice to see and hear that he was saying, yeah, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I've been struggling. And, now I got to figure it out. He's putting his big boy pants on. And I like to hear this.
I just, what jumps out to me, and I try not to do the blah, blah, blah at people who want to, talk about, well, you said this and now look, this didn't age fucking well. I started last year saying these kids are young and they need to grow up. And when they grow up, we'll see what they're actually made of. And that is made a little bit of a too cliche, but it's also fucking true. Because, if you think about it, Jason Tatum's talking about his first 3 seasons in the league. He came in at 20 years old, and he tells you right there at 20 years old, I fell into the exact mental trap that the media said I fell into. And in that time, I was calling the media assholes for saying I was falling into it. But it's all true. Mm-hmm. It's all true. Because you're that young and that naive and that fucking dumb. And that's the case. His second quote, on the early success and wishing he could have handled it differently, he says, quote, "My first year for sure, I took it for granted because, you're a rookie. You don't know any better. I'm on the Celtics. We got Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, JB, Marcus Morris, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, but he got hurt."
Surprise, surprise.
Tatum says, quote, "I think this is just going to last forever and we're going to win a championship because we have 17. I just thought it was normal. I thought it was how it was supposed to be. Looking back on it, I didn't, I guess, cherish it as I probably should have. But at the same time, how could I? I didn't know any better." We're looking at that going, dude, how can you think that way? Because we're older. We've gone through experiences. We understand that things are not as good as they seem and they won't last forever.
He's a kid.
But the idea of being a kid and having them, it's just real. It's just reality. He's 20 and he's telling you that's exactly the way he thought, the way that the whole media is the way that they thought he thought. And that's what they blame their lack of success on. And they got mad at the players, got mad at the media saying that, but it was all fucking true. It was all true.
Because you think about it, too, he went through high school. He was always the best in high school. Probably never had a losing season in high school. Goes to Duke, not a losing season there. So he's never had that season where you have to go back and reflect and be like, what do I have to do to change my game? He's always been in a winning situation. Even in his rookie year, he was in a winning situation. Now it's finally coming through and he's like, oh shit, how am I supposed to do this? Now he's doing like some reflection about how to get better, how to take the next step. And through this interview, you're seeing like, hey, shit, I always thought it was going to be easy. I thought I was going to be able to take the next step. It was just going to be, winning championship after championship. And it's not like that. It's actually hard work. And to get to that Eastern Conference final, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I actually have to step my game up and be better as a player, as a teammate, and all that stuff. So it's cool to see that he's actually coming out and saying this. And the media was right. And he's like, yeah, you guys were right.
Yeah. He didn't say the media was right. I don't think they will say that, but he's saying
but
that.
You can tell, you can read into between the lines.
You can, yeah, exactly. And I'll just give you his last quote here. And, it makes me feel good about the future of the Celtics. If this is this guy's mentality, who is your future? He very easily could have come out and said something very different. He very easily could have come out and said the same shit that he was saying 3 years prior to this, that, we weren't healthy. Wasn't the right situation. Some balls bounced the wrong way. We're due to win. He could have parsed all of that shit. Instead, he came out and said, yeah, no. I was young. I was naive. I was dumb. I thought that was all going to come to be. We have to work harder and so on. So I'll give you the last quote here, which kind of reiterates that. So he says, quote, and then the bubble year, my third year, we lost to the Heat. We were winning every game. We lost in overtime in game 1, where you got stuffed by Bam Adebayo. We was up 14, I think, in the third quarter in game 2, and you blew it. We win game 3. We gave up a lead in game 4. You blew it. We game 6. We ran out of gas. Nope, you blew it. Turnovers. He didn't say a lot of those things.
No, you're ad-libbing. You're ad-libbing. Yep.
But I think to have, this is now Tatum again, when you're in those moments when this is, we talked about this, Ray. I wrote a blog about this. This is the end of the game type of shit. And makes me feel good that he's saying this. He says, quote, when you're in those moments, when you are at the close, when you really have to hone in. Let me try and read that again.
He's not a grammar guru.
No, he's not the grammar guru. I think when you're in those moments,
it's hard to read.
Yeah. When you are at that close, you really have to hone in. So what he's saying is at the end of the game, you really have to hone in. You got to think that this might be your last chance. And I think, I was 21 at the time. I remember when we lost, I was pissed because I felt like we could have and should have beat them. The Heat were a really good team, but there was a part of me, I got 15 more years. And I was like blinded. It blinked. It's year 5. And it's like, this shit goes by a little faster than I thought. Whoo! That makes my ears ring, Mr. Jayson Tatum. No shit, dude. You can't let those moments go by. And I always bring it back. I've said this many times in this show. I lived down in Washington, D.C. when Steven Strasburg came into this league, into the MLB, and the Nats were one of the best teams in the league, and they were going to the playoffs, and he had a tinge in his elbow, and they shut him down, thinking that they'd have 10 years left with him, and it took them another 7 years to get back and won that world championship out of nowhere. They had no business winning that world championship, and they did. And that year they shut Strasburg down. They all thought that they would be right back there the next year, and they weren't.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough road, man. Like, look at how the NFL, like how these guys, like they're saying, oh, Joe Burrow, don't worry, you're going to get back there. It's not guaranteed, man. It's fucking hard. Dan Marino went there I think his second year in the league. He never went back. He was regarded as one of the best quarterbacks of his generation too. It's like, this shit's not promised. You got to actually work your ass off. And if he's finally like coming to terms with that, like, I got to do something to change my game up. I got to take that next step. This is great to hear. Hopefully Jaylen Brown's co-signing on this, because if those two are engaged and ready to do this, we could be looking at a dynasty in like 3 or 4 years.
Don't do the dynasty shit.
Well, you know what I'm saying? They could be at that Eastern Conference Finals every year. Like,
you should be a competing team. If I said this at the beginning of the goddamn year, you ookie cookie. If Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown pull their heads out of their collective young 20-year-old asses and figure out what Jayson Tatum said on this JJ Redick podcast, then they will be a top 4 team in the East for as many years as they're on the Boston Celtics, because those two are talented enough to do that.